Hello everyone, and welcome back to Star Trek Aristotle, an original series era Star Trek Adventures game using the rules by Modiphius Entertainment. My name is ELH the Game Master, and joining me are four lovely players which we'll meet right now, starting with Mr. Shizno. Shizno, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, who you're playing, and anything you want to shout out.
Hello, I'm Shizno. I'm playing Captain Waylon Cullen. He's a nice old man. I'm a nice guy, I think. I try to be, maybe. I don't know. And I like to give helpful advice. So for that tidbit, it's always easier to go outdoors than it is out windows. Next.
I have to process that. You're not wrong, and I get to use my favorite word, defenestration. So
Alrighty,
any.
my name
Oh, go ahead.
is Commander Krell. Go by King Cairo. I am the chief engineer of the USS Aristotle. And a little interesting factoid about fenestration. There are not one, but two events called the Defenestrations of Prague that both set off pretty bad wars. So that's interesting.
So apparently, what I'm learning is that I have to figure out a way to do Chekhov's window for this episode. Anyway, Thestro, what do you got going on?
Three incidents. Three times.
I have to follow that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make it easy on Gray. Hey, I'm Arwen. So happy to be here, and I play Lieutenant Thestral, who is the communications officer for the USS Aristotle.
And then Gray.
Hey y'all, Gray here. I play Lieutenant Junior Gray Salvatore Minetti, Chief of Security aboard the USS Aristotle. And he knows Kung Fu. That's all I gotta say.
This is where Morpheus just sort of pokes his head in frame and goes, "Show me." Let's get that intro video going. And welcome back. So something I like doing for all my Star Trek Adventures games is have the players do an opening log, and I believe, Mr. Cullen, you have that honor tonight, so please take it away.
Captain's log supplemental. Well, dealings with the brine have gone rather well. We're looking at some good talks, and with the ambassador being helped out with the tech and some of the talking I've given him, looks like things should be going smoothly. The brine are actually rather interested in the bowl, so going to give them the design there. But we did ask to see if we could get some information about their culture, particularly about any circus performances, anything of entertainment. We want to be able to put on a show for them in the future and maybe show them something else of ours down the road. All in all, the crew's doing good. I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion of this and making sure the ambassador is going to be in a good place. But I have faith in my crew, I have faith in their ship, and I have the faith in a lot of things. Man, I'm really bad at these logs. Well, that's it, computer. You can stop recording right now. Why did you record all that?
Because you told me to.
He's just going to manually end the recording.
All right. Well, where we're actually going to begin is you all are currently still docked with the orbital tether, orbital elevator circling Brina III. And you are currently all meeting for your daily stand up meeting, as good Starfleet officers do, because we believe in the agile methodology here, Scrum and all that. God, no, we don't believe in Scrum, please, for the love of God. Basically, you have out of your left windows, you have a beautiful shot of the crystal blue planet below and the silver tether which connects down through the atmosphere. All of you are there. Cullen, Minetti, Thestral, Krell, you're all there. And Cavus is set to join you at some point, but he will join at a dramatically appropriate moment. But I did want to give you all a chance to ask your questions about the brine, basically have some moments to yourselves, and just generally be characters in the environment for once. So feel free to take it away.
Are they here yet? Are they here? Are they here? Do you not want to ask questions until your throat falls out? This is so exciting.
I'll just chuckle. He's like, well, what do you think we should be doing right about now, huh? Ideas? Suggestions?
So where are we again? We're
You're in the
like,
conference room on the Aristotle. You're still in orbit of Brina III.
okay. Uh, Honestly, I can't think of anything in particular, so I'll just revert back to Krell is looking at specifications and schematics on. Actually, he can be reviewing the bowl that he and Minetti helped craft last session on a datapad.
Mr. Krell, did you get the updates I put together on the translating the directions on how to use the controls for the bowl?
No, I didn't. When did you send it to me? What's the subject?
The subject line should be something like making sure they don't crash for lack of understanding.
Oh, right. Yeah, I thought that was spam. I just deleted it. 1 second. And I push a few buttons and get it back on my main screen, review it. Oh, this should only take a few minutes.
Well, that's what I get for working on my sense of humor. Okay, yeah, it's just some updates to the control directions, just the decals that we put over. There's also I updated to include some subtleties that they use when they use pheromones that they put into the water. So there's some signaling for that too.
Fancy. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I see the files here. I'll send them to Follis, and he can print them off.
Fantastic. How long do we have before the brine arrive?
Is that an out of character question?
No, it's an in-character question.
Well, then the computer will reply, the ambassador, along with Ambassador Udor, will arrive in 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh gosh. Okay. Calm down. Everything's going to be fine, Thestral. This is so exciting. I promise not to embarrass us. I promise not to embarrass us. I promise not to embarrass us with too many questions.
So Minetti would have the whole security team done up in their formal garb, their formal uniform. Basically stressing to them the importance of this diplomatic visit and how everything must be perfect and all that. But other than that, he's just around in case anything else needs to be handled last minute.
What about you,
Waylon's just gonna
Captain?
grin. He's just looking at everyone, watching them talk and smile. And before the ambassador shows up, he goes like, I've got a question for all of you. Why does a sailor have a pet crab?
Um,
Do we have something to eat?
What's a crab? I say, raising, kind of looking up from my schematics.
He'll pull up a picture of a crab. He'll like, it's that.
Oh, okay, we have something like that on Belarus.
Hmm.
I don't know. We wouldn't keep them on Belarus. Those things are deadly. They're
Oh.
like the size of a small shuttle.
Oh, well, these ones aren't quite that big. What would you, Manetti? Why would the sailor keep a crab?
I mean, a spare lunch comes to mind, but I'm sure that's not the answer.
Nope. They're handy in a pinch.
The DM took psychic damage.
There's a definite slow clap from Manetti.
And right about then, as you're slow clapping, that's when the door chimes and in steps Ambassador Cavis and Ambassador Udor. Now, Ambassador Cavis is wearing the visor that was developed in the last episode that lets him filter out the thalassophobia-inducing views of endless ocean. As for the Brine Ambassador Udor, he is indeed in one of the bowls. And as a reminder, the brine are kind of a hybrid between a squirrel and a dolphin. Their signature feature is that they have kind of Miles Tails Prowlers-esque tails that propel them through the water. But this one is blue. This one is entirely blue. Whereas everything that Ambassador Cavis has showed you is lots of greens, lots of purples, lots of browns. So this one, Udor, is blue. But both ambassadors enter in. They take a look around, and Ambassador Cavis kind of points over at Minetti and Krell and says, well, Ambassador Udor, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Krell and Mr. Minetti. They are actually the ones responsible for developing the vessel you're now being transported in. And Udor kind of swims a little bit closer to the edge of the bowl and stares at you with these big crystalline eyes that are just pure white, aside from the irises. The irises are kind of this off yellow, so almost imagine a pure white orb for eyes, but just these slight yellow pupils, if that makes sense. But they're just, these big, just almost anime-like eyes, just of how big and, full of life they are. And they begin speaking very rapidly, and the universal translator picks it up, and I'm going to do my best to do my rapid impersonation here. But they say, oh god, we're starting to choke. Hold on. Hello, Minetti, Udor. My name is Udor, and it is a pleasure to meet you. Also, you, Krell, it is nice to meet you as well. I promise Oh, okay, slow down. Universal Translator's overloading. Hello, my name is Ambassador Udor, and it is a pleasure to meet the both of you. I must say that your invention of this device has been quite fruitful in the introductory talks between myself and Ambassador Cavis.
Krell respectfully, nods his head and says, well, I'm happy to hear that, Ambassador. If there's anything that we can do to make it more effective for you, please let us know, and I'll get a team on it right away.
And there's a pause as Udor does look to see if Minetti has anything to add.
Manetti will say, the truth of it is that the commander did probably a good 60-70% of the work. I simply helped with interfacing along with Lieutenant Thestral's help, smoothing over my mistake, as it were.
Well, there's a saying on Brina III that everybody contributes something to the greater divide.
The greater divide. What's that?
Ah,
It is not a impertinent question.
no, not at all. It is I guess you would call it an origin story of our species, much like Ambassador Cavis has told me humans believe that they originated from many different religions or many different areas on your planet. But it is one of those things where we are believed to have originated from a specific oceanic trench on Brina III. So we call it the Great Divide.
Very sensible.
And at this point, Ambassador Cavus kind of picks up the thread and goes, "Well, I have good news for all of you. Udor here has been gracious enough to visit with us, and they have extended the courtesy that if any of you would like to join me on the Aquashuttle, they would actually like to show us the oceanic trench that was just mentioned."
Sounds fantastic.
Be glad to volunteer as pilot.
We get to explore an undersea trench. Oh, the discovery opportunities. Oh, I hope this is going to be a fruitful uh, and mutually beneficial exchange of information and uh, between our two species. We're so grateful to have you here, Ambassador Udor.
And what about you, Menedy? What would you like to come along as well?
I would be glad to. I'm sure the context may be a bit of an aid in the parts of your culture that we've been struggling to understand, as limited as our studies have been. I'm sure that with your people's assistance and education, we could fill in a lot of those missing puzzle pieces.
Ah, an inquisitive one. I like that a lot. And his tail like does a half spin, so he kind of moves a little bit forward, but it's like a happy spin, like a dog wag. He says, "Very well, Ambassador Cavus, perhaps we should depart right away." And Cavus kind of looks at Cullen to see if now is a good time for everybody to pile onto the Aqua Shuttle.
He'll just give him a head nod with a smile.
"Ah, very well. Then I will go ahead and go down the orbital lift, and I will meet you down in the water."
Very well. Crew, pack your swimwear.
Well, hopefully not, sir.
Just smiles.
Especially for Ambassador Cavus's sake.
Cavus declines to comment. All right. So let's actually talk about the Aqua Shuttle, because it's one of those things that was introduced in TOS, at least the animated series, so I guess TAS. And it's more or less just your standard Mark 1 shuttle that's been modified to actually go into aquatic environments. As far as it goes for the players, though, you all should have access to the Aqua Shuttle sheet. And let me know if you do not see it, because very important, or at least might be very important, depending on how much thread I spend. But yeah,
Yep.
Looks like it's showing up for me, at least.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So before I start going into my monologue, does anybody want to bring anything particular in terms of gear?
No, but can the shuttle be called the Cousteau?
Yes, it can.
Perfect.
Awesome. Is the shuttle equipped with any breathers or?
It is equipped with some rebreathers that will work up to a certain depth. So you've got at least some form of environment suit thing, I guess is how I would put it.
Is there a transporter pad on the shuttle? I don't
No,
think
so yeah, TOS era. I don't even
Yeah.
think they introduced that until the runabouts, really. So
I think you're right. I think you're right there. I think it was like Deep Space Nine that started showing those. Well then probably some pattern enhancers, just in case we run into issues in the trench and the ship has some difficulty locking on to us through all the water.
Okay. Thestral,
we should bring
Manetti,
some
anything you guys
scientific-
want to bring?
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. We should bring some. Thestral will want to bring some scientific equipment, and also his beefed up universal translator.
None of my extra gear really helps too much in this type of situation. I will bring along my hand phaser, because he really never goes anywhere without it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that and like a basic tricorder.
Okay. And then last but not least, Cullen. Anything extra you want to bring?
No, can't think of anything. Everyone's got covered, so.
Some sushi for lunch.
He'll bring whatever the equivalent of the current era technology of a camera would be. I don't know if it's a
I think they're called imagers or something like that.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
imagers or something. Yeah. Okay. So you're bringing a camera. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So you all go down to the shuttle bay where Ambassador Cavs' Aquashuttle has been situated this entire time. You pile on in. No role required, depending on who wants to be actually piloting the thing. But you take the Aquashuttle out of the back of the Aristotle, and you angle down towards the planet and begin your descent into the atmosphere. Now, the good news about Brina III is that there's not a whole lot of storm activity, so there's not a whole lot of turbulence on the way down as long as you follow the quote-unquote appropriate descent vectors that are displayed to you. But overall, what you're noticing is that as you kind of look to the right, like I like to imagine you guys are screen left and the orbital tether's screen right. As you look over to the orbital tether, if you look really, really carefully, you can see that it's kind of like a salmon cannon. And if you have no idea what a salmon cannon is, congrats, you're one of today's 10,000. So, a salmon cannon is something we use in real life to move salmon from lower ponds, water sources to higher ones. And it is quite literally a tube that is pressurized that moves a salmon from one end to another. So what you're seeing in the orbital tether is more or less these pneumatic tubes that are just kind of shooting the brine up or down, depending on which way they want to go on the tether. And if you look really, really carefully, or even if you were to scan, you would see that the ambassador is actually keeping pace with your descent towards the ocean.
How long can they hold their breath?
Cavis actually chuckles and say, "That's the thing. They don't actually ever have to come up for air."
So they're not true cetaceans?
No, that's the funny thing, is that apparently they were at some point in their development, but then they developed away from it. I'm not quite understanding what it is. As you heard, the ambassador does have a tendency to talk very fast, and I do my best to keep up, but I only assimilate but so much.
Okay, well, hopefully that will be a topic of conversation at some point.
Indeed. Personally, I'm just wondering how the squirrel-like features got into their development.
Oh, there could be a whole host of reasons why. Organizing their provisions, storing things away for difficult times, a defense mechanism of cuteness.
Defense mechanism of cuteness. Minetti, does that actually work?
Theoretically, in some cases, it may be slightly more likely, only ever so slightly, that they might have developed to look similar to underwater vegetation in their habitat.
An interesting insight. I guess we'll find out when we get down
Seahorses,
there.
many species of earth seahorses do the same.
You know, I haven't thought about a seahorse in a long time. Excellent insight, Minetti.
How have you been getting along with them, Ambassador?
Well, if I'm being honest, there's still some moments where I have to kind of clamp down and stop the internal screaming, but I'm managing, thank you.
I don't know how you're doing on the inside, but on the outside, it feels like you're doing okay.
And most of it's thanks to this visor that you all developed for me.
Cutting edge of fashion, that.
By the way, I've already submitted my report to the Daystrom Institute. They've told me they're going to get back to me, but I heavily implied that they should take a very quick look at your schematics for rollout to the greater fleet.
Oh. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador. So,
Though this does mean you have to name it, son.
Oh, I've got some ideas. I'll have to get back to you on that though.
It's at this point that your descent vector down, there's kind of a slight vibration through the hull of the shuttle as you break through. I forget what it's called. Is it the therosphere? Whatever it is between the actual like stratosphere and the other layers, which is out of my mind. Either way, you get down far enough in the atmosphere where you're soaring at a normal plane height above the ocean. And again, it is just a plane of crystal blue water. You're able to see actually down into the depths like you would, say, at the Caribbean or any other tropical island where you can see reefs, you can see wildlife, and it is just one of the most beautiful things that you have ever seen because it's not just coral reefs and aquatic life. You're seeing the brine moving about their daily business. You're seeing bioluminescent plankton and bioluminescent fish moving about, communicating by light pulses. You're seeing these structures which resemble fractal patterns, which are both man-made and seem to be built into the coral reefs that they're emulating. You're also seeing these impressive trenches, and you're sort of angling towards one at the moment, where it is just the darkest blue you've ever seen, but it's also one of those things where the walls of the trench are lit up by, again, the bioluminescent plant life, kind of hanging down like Christmas lights, if you will. And they all sort of pulsate as if to form a, I forget what it's called on an actual like real life runway, but whatever that strip of lights is that say you need to land here, whatever that strip of lights is called.
How's it looking, Captain? There's a lot of electromagnetic stimuli that my antennae are picking up.
Anything we should be worried about for you? Do you need like a dampener or anything like that?
No, sir, I can handle it. It's quite stimulating, actually.
Just don't go around opening up your mind to anything and everything down here, okay?
Sir, can I just say, in spite of recent experiences, in general, most Enar, we don't really like to open our minds up unless we have to. And I don't want you to think that my decision making is faulty here. I believe, even though it didn't work out well in every circumstance, I behaved appropriate to the circumstance to try to glean more information when other means weren't available to me. I need to, for my own self-esteem, and my own for my own integrity, I think I really need to make that clear and mention that, sir.
Krell pipes up from the console he's looking at. I'm pretty sure he's just giving you a hard time, Thestral. He's just yanking your chain.
Oh, well, in that case, sir, good one. Yeah, okay.
He just laughs slightly, like, you're a good one. Okay, let's see here. Well,
All right. So I have a very important question. Minetti, are you piloting or are you letting the ambassador pilot?
I would assume that I would be piloting basically unless ordered otherwise.
Okay. So second up, follow-up question. Do you want to show off for the ambassador and the captain, or do you want to do things by the book?
I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. So I'm not trying to hot rod it through their water lanes or anything like that.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking more graceful dives, but, you know, if you want to do things by the book, we can do things by the book.
Yeah, I mean, if I could show off while not like, you know, for lack of a better way of saying it, making an ass of myself and like drawing negative attention, then yeah, I'll do that. But I just I don't want to rock the boat, as it were.
There you go. We have to get the puns out now. Well, actually, now that I remind myself to look at your sheet, it doesn't matter because your control and your daring are the exact same. So,
Yeah.
if you want to do things by the book, roll me a control and con. If you want to do something a little bit flashy, a little bit spectacular, it's a daring con. I would tell you that you unfortunately don't have a focus here, I don't think. But the difficulty would only be a 1, and you do start with 1 momentum, and everybody does have 1 point of determination.
Are you guys fine with me using the momentum, hoping I can get it back with my untapped potential?
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
All right. 2 successes, which means you immediately get at least 1 back, and then go ahead and roll a challenge die to see if you get any more.
One die in pool.
Hey, I get a threat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, you just got a momentum from Chad as well. Thank you, Chad. So
Nice.
Minetti, I'm going to let you describe how graceful or how flashy you want to be as you bring the Aquashuttle into the actual ocean itself.
Manetti's basically doing his best to give the passengers the best view that he can while sticking to the route. So, like, if I need to tip the shuttle to one side or something like that to get them a better view of the reef, that kind of thing. But very much not doing loop-de-loops or swerving all over the place or anything like that. And yeah, he's basically just trying to keep it as smooth as possible while giving the best visibility of the site that we're passing by.
All right. So, based on that, when you actually do make contact with the water, it is smooth as hot knife through butter. There's not even a shudder through the shuttle as the view screen is enveloped by the water. And I know it's kind of hard for me to explain because I really like the ocean and trying to contain my excitement, but this is the equivalent of like going on a diving expedition or going on a snorkeling expedition at the Great Barrier Reef, where it's one thing to see the reef from above and it's one thing to see it from, the atmosphere, but to be among it and to be there, as it were, it is an entirely different experience where the fish swim around the aqua shuttle. The bits of plant life either react by flourishing and showing off more colors. Some retract into their little exoskeletons or their coral part of the reef. Some of the brine themselves begin doing like circles around the aqua shuttle. It's basically a Disney musical, if I had to put a word on it. But at the forefront, Ambassador Udor does manage to swim up to the front of the shuttle, and he kind of gives a wave with one of his little flipper hands and begins leading you towards one of the oceanic trenches nearby. But again, I'm going to give you guys a moment to process and react to all that before I move on. So feel free once again to take it away.
Maybe we'll just start by saying, not bad for only having floated one of these things in a sim, right?
You're joking, right?
Not one bit. I mean, it's similar to a normal shuttle, ish.
How many simulations exactly did you do? Do I want to know?
I mean, dozens, but some more successful than others.
I'm just going to focus on gathering data. And I'm just going to move back to my console and try to put that out of my mind and just collect scientific data.
Well, the nice thing about being down under this much pressure, we won't know if you make a mistake.
Very true.
So,
Silver linings, I suppose.
yeah.
So just under my breath, I'm like, Don't do the math. Don't do the math in your head. Don't do the math in your. Oh, I'm doing the math in my head.
Hello. I think the worst thing could happen, though, would just be getting lost down here. Everything else is fine, but we just have no way to get back up. That'd be a while. Huh. So, any of you have family at home?
Oh, yes, I do. I say, Krell says unenthusiastically.
I like that Krell and I
Siblings
both
or...
groaned at the same time.
Oh, siblings, uncles, second cousins, first cousins once removed. I have a very large family. Fortunately, Starfleet keeps me very busy.
That's good. You keep in touch with them at least?
Oh, yes. My mother reaches out to me every few months, letting me know how much I'm missing back home.
Oh. So I take
Yeah.
it they weren't fond of you joining.
Oh no! When I told them I was gonna be for what do you humans call it? And I turned to Minetti a grease monkey. When I told her I was planning to join Starfleet as an engineer, they pretty much collectively lost their heads. I was supposed to be running the business back home.
Ah. Family enterprise.
Yep, we build and repair civilian ships. It's where I found my love for engineering, actually. What about you, Captain?
Oh, I think I have a great couple more greats on that. Yeah, relatives still kicking around. You know, grandchildren.
Cavis actually
Yeah.
coughs and says, "Yeah, Captain, you and I both know that you populated one of the many islands in the Mediterranean."
Yeah, that's why I still have so many grandchildren kicking around still. Although it was kind of... It's always difficult to explain, hey, how come Grandpa is still alive? Took some time to explain the true nature. We had to wait for them to grow up, of course. But, yeah. What about you, Minetti?
Well, I guess for my family, Starfleet is the family business. At least far back as I can remember hearing stories about. Uh, my father was chief petty officer aboard the Arbor. Um, Lost him when I was fairly young, but my mother still works as a behavioral psychologist with Starfleet Medical.
Well, you've grown up to be a very fine and prominent young man. I'm sure your father would be proud of you, if you don't mind me saying.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind.
Well, after this, when we're done back aboard the ship, I'll give you a nice drink, okay? None of that
Sure
simple
thing,
hall stuff
Captain.
either. And how about you, Thustral? Who do you have back at home?
Oh, well, home is an interesting word for me, sir. And he's grimacing a little bit. He does not look entirely comfortable with this conversation. My family are, they're, I guess, in your parlance, humanitarian workers. Their life is aboard a civilian vessel rendering humanitarian aid to species affected, to planets and systems affected by wars and natural disasters. I have a rather large family, much like it sounds like Mr. Krell does. They're colorful, sir. Let's just put it that way.
I didn't know Enar came in other shades.
I think he meant just more personality-wise.
Well, that probably makes more sense.
We're like many sapient life form, humanoid life forms. We're more diverse than people typically know. But yes, personality-wise, sir, I probably should. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Hopefully, hopefully my family will never be a problem.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's see what the festivities down here are going to entail. Let's enjoy the sightseeing. Make sure to do due diligence in your studies and whatever you plan on doing down here. I'm just going to take some nice photos, and there will be a few photos of all of us together. That's an order.
All right. So, at this point, you all have traveled down far enough into the ocean that normally, if this were on Earth, you'd be at crush depth in the water. You'd be in the kind of the twilight zone where the light doesn't come down this far. But thanks to the unique properties of the ocean of Brina III and combined with lower gravity, you actually are doing quite fine. In fact, your Aquashuttle can handle many, many more kilometers of this with no issue whatsoever. But what matters is you finally have come upon one of the underwater trenches, the Great Divide, as Ambassador Udor referenced earlier. And again, I want you to imagine a oceanic trench, very similar to a valley on Earth, where the walls are kind of jagged and sort of rocky, but there's also, again, those hanging bits of bioluminescent flora that provide definition and kind of warning lights to know, where the edges of the canyon are. But what you're also noticing is that built into the walls and built it to the very bottom of the trench, almost like in a spiral pattern, are these golden metal structures that kind of resemble what's the word I want? Not a dreidel, but like a top, like a spinning top. Now that I think about it, maybe more like a dreidel that's kind of a screw instead of the square. But either case, again, what you're seeing is that the brine are moving about these structures. Some are submerged, some are not submerged. And to answer one of Thestel's questions, which I knew he had, you do actually see that there are brine in what appears to be an atmosphere of some kind, but there's definitely more submerged structures in comparison, if that makes any sense. But Ambassador Udor, he kind of takes you down into this canyon, and you start to sort of flow along what appears to be a road of some kind. Because, again, it's a 3D environment. There's not really so much a road as it is just kind of a procession of fish and other wildlife and other brine. But you are sort of led towards this almost an upside-down acorn structure with many different windows, many different orifices, and just sort of this, what's the word I want? Cathedral, I think is the word I want. But when you scan it, what you all realize very quickly is that is a living organism. That isn't constructed. That's a real living being that you're looking at. And its size, it's twice or maybe even 3 times bigger than the Aristotle.
You said there's windows in it?
Well, there's kind of these holes which if you were to look on, like if it was an above ground structure like on Earth, there would be like windows set into it like like a cathedral with stained glass windows you would see. Um but it's a living creature if you get what I'm saying.
I do. So is it akin to like what are they called in our skull? Lacuna? Um, which are like holes that allow blood vessels and whatnot to pass through, organically shaped, but they're filled with some kind of there's some kind of connective tissue or something that's acting like glass.
Yeah, and what you would see is that if a brine swims up to the tissue, the quote unquote stained glass does open up to permit the brine to swim in.
Fascinating.
But yeah, the ambassador, he kind of brings you to the front of this creature and then kind of points with one of his flipper hands and says, "This is the crux of the Great Divide. The word for it doesn't really translate, but the closest thing I can say in your language is that it would be akin to the predecessor. The predecessor has been here throughout all of our history, and it is one of our most venerated spaces. We are honored to share it with you."
It's very impressive, Ambassador. What
Can't say I've
exactly
ever seen something
is
quite like it.
if you don't mind me asking?
What is it? Well, I'm actually hoping you might be able to tell me. And one thing I should say is that I'm not speaking in that rapid tone because the ambassador does actually slow down when he's in the water. Um,
Mm.
but he says, I was hoping you could tell me. It's one of the greatest mysteries. We're not entirely sure where the predecessor came from, nor why it tolerates us. If anything, it appears to be adapting to our needs rather than its needs. In fact, we've had to inject it with nutrients a few times when it hasn't taken in any sustenance for a long time. We're hoping we're not harming it in any way, but again, you are Starfleet. You may have encountered similar other alien species like this. We're hoping you might have some insight.
Is it sapient?
It does speak in a way that is similar to what Ambassador Cavis has told me is your Earth whales.
Huh.
And you understand it?
No, that is the other reason I've asked all of you to come down here. I believe between all of you, you might be able to tell us what the predecessor is saying.
Challenge accepted.
And right on cue, the predecessor, it sort of shudders, and there's kind of not quite a whale song. It's like a whale song that's far more deeper and far more omnipresent, where it doesn't like rattle your skull and it doesn't rattle the shuttle, but it's there in your mind when this sort of whale song washes over you.
Amazing. I'm gonna immediately start recording and try to run it through the UT.
Okay. So now we get to do an extended task because I think everybody but
Yay.
Thestral has gotten to do an extended task. So Thestral, congrats, you're now our lucky winner.
Oh,
All right, so Thestral, your work track is going to be out of 14, and I'll put this all in chat. Your magnitude for this will be a 4, your resistance will be a 1, and the starting difficulty will be a 4 as well. So, you tell me how you want to tackle this translation task, and we'll assign an appropriate attribute and discipline. And also, you may have up to 1 assist, whether it is the shuttle or another player.
Okay. So, trying to understand. I think the first thing I want to do is run the patterns and the song, just different aspects of the communication, everything. I'm not going to go into a lot of technical detail, but just, everything from vocalizations to different linguistic characteristics to the space between silent and not silent, the tones, the pitch, um, uh, what the creature, what parts of the creature are making the sound, and then compare that to our cultural and biological database to other similar creatures. Yeah, I'm basically I'm trying to see if I can establish a base reference
Okay.
with what we know already, if there's any similarity to anything we know already.
Okay. Yeah, we can make that happen.
Okay.
I think it's probably going to be a control science for you. As for the others, again, you all may give me a pitch of how you're assisting, but if it factors into your deliberation, the Aquashuttle would assist you with a computers and a science for its part. And the benefit would be that the shuttle, like a ship, always has a focus.
Manetti would offer help, either helping add context, behavioral analysis context to any physical communication that the being is trying to communicate along with just sound, or also xenolinguistics, which is kind of up the same alley as what Thestral was doing.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Can't
Let
really
me.
think of any way that Krell could help.
All good. Manetti, how would you feel about an insight in science?
It's decent. It's not my best, but it's decent.
Yeah, and you would have a focus, so.
That is true.
And as a
Ooh,
reminder,
actually, can I use a determination with my value every day as a new wonder?
see, that's the thing, and this is where I'll let Thestral let me know if we want to switch, because you can't use determination on an assist, but you could use it
Ah,
if you were doing
damn.
the main role.
If only I could give Thestral my determination.
Actually, go for it. I will assist you.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm totally sure. That sounds awesome. I love that. And
I'm a very curious Earthling.
what we will maybe adjusting to suit Manetti's talents is I'll be assisting him with the linguistic aspect,
Mm-hmm.
and he will be looking at this communication from a anthropological, um, uh, biopsychosocial context. So I don't want to speak for you, Manetti, but this is very much like you're looking at the circumstances in which it's making these emanations, and trying to parse together some kind of behavioral motivation for its communication at this particular moment, us arriving.
Yeah, basically like seeing what, if any, connections I can make between the audio communication cues that we're getting and any physical responses, and other. I mean, basically, as much as you're trying to work on the communication aspect, linguistically, or in the audio analysis, I'm going to be trying to monitor as much as I can of the physical aspect of things.
All right. I like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, Manetti,
And
if you want to go ahead and use your determination, make sure that to check the box when you perform task. Do you wish to spend any momentum? Because you are at 2 momentum at the moment.
if folks are fine with it, I'd be glad to spend one.
Okay. It would be 2
I think
momentum because the determination counts as a die, but You can now roll 3d20 and make sure to check the box using determination.
All right. And it's just making sure it's inside science, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, that's already 5 successes. Thestral, if you want to give me your assist, as a reminder, you're only rolling the 1 die.
Okay,
We're breaking new ground, Thestral.
that's what we're here for. And my xenolinguistics focus?
Most definitely.
Okay, cool.
All right, well, that's a grand total of 6 successes, meaning you're back up to 2 momentum. Now comes the interesting part. So, Minetti, since you took the lead here, it's going to be 2 plus your science challenge dice. So 5 challenge dice, if you would be so kind.
Oh, and then here's the one for the untapped potential.
I mean, I'll take more threats, sure.
Just because I gotta remember I gotta roll that every time I use momentum. And then you said it's 5 challenge dice?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
High
Well,
effect, 7 successes.
the good news is that with 7 successes, that does get reduced down to 6 because of the resistance. But again, 5 is the magic number when it comes to many things in this system. So you do achieve a breakthrough between the two of you. So what that's going to mean in the narrative is that you can detect that the predecessor is in... Shizno, if you don't mind me picking on you for a moment, it's like one of those things where if you've been a fan of the channel, you know Shizno unfortunately is in chronic pain. It's like the pain is there, but they're living with it. Like they're not like, oh, ow, I'm in pain, ow, I'm in pain. They're like, oh, I'm in pain. Hi, how are you doing? Ow. And Shizno, feel free to make that sound a hell of a lot better because I think I just bungled all of it.
Oh no, that's my existence. Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
So I glance over. I point my head over in Minetti's direction. Are you coming to the same conclusion I am?
It it's seeming so. I'm not seeing exactly most positive of readings here, but good news is that they don't seem to be critical in any way, at least that we can detect yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's count that as a data point and then press on. I'm wondering, Captain Cullen and Commander Krell, if we could draw on your expertise as well here. Specifically, Mr. Krell, I'm wondering, can you do a structural analysis of the creature to see how its weight is distributed?
Well,
Yeah, it shouldn't be
To see if there's any
too
weak points?
difficult.
Okay.
Let me get control of the sensors here.
And Captain, have you ever experienced anything like this before? Have you ever, in your in the scope of your career?
not that I could say. You have to understand, I spent the majority of my time on Earth.
I see. And how do Earth cetaceans, how much interactions with Earth cetaceans did you have when they existed?
Well, he just thinks for a while. He's like, for the first little while I was on Earth, it was mostly just trying to acclimate to the different cultures and blend in and keep a low profile. Did minimalist interactions with people for a long time. After the fall of Rome, that's when I started interacting more. Started taking more sailing work. But you have to understand, when we went to Earth, we abandoned our technology. So, not much help I can provide there, unfortunately.
Okay. And were cetaceans like apex predators? Were they peaceful? I mean, from what I've read, they were social creatures, weren't they?
For the most part, yeah.
Bit of column A, bit of column B.
Hmm.
Some were more your gentle giant filter feeder types. Some actively hunted for their food.
I see. But they cooperated with each other. They formed family units and pods, from what I read.
From what I can remember, almost universally among species, I can't recall learning about a singular Earth cetacean that didn't display that behavior, at least.
Hmm. Let's go with the hypothesis that this creature is protecting or looking after the brine. Let's entertain that possibility, considering that it is allowing them to interact with it and utilize its body as a structure, even though it's from these signs that we're getting so far, it might be in some kind of chronic pain.
There was a possibly similar interaction between two underwater Earth organisms, the fish that we call the clownfish and something called a sea anemone that they basically lived more or less on top of. The sea anemone would protect the clownfish with its. I'm not sure if tentacles would be the scientifically correct term, but more or less its tentacles that would interfere with any other fish that were trying to come after the clownfish.
Yes,
It's
that
kind of a
very
protective net.
that very good, Commander. Yes, what you're talking about is a biological concept called mutualism. Um, there's mutualism, there's parasitism. There are many species, especially on since we have at least one Terran here, lichens and whatnot, um, that build themselves around each other in a mutually beneficial arrangement. I wonder if that's what's going on here. Well, let's press on with it. What did you find on your structural analysis?
And that's where I step in once more. All right, so interestingly, I think it's going to be between Krell and Cullen here. I'll explain Cullen in a moment, but Krell, you would be doing a insight and engineering. I would give you physics as a focus here because it kind of
Alrighty.
relates to the structure of this being underwater. Cullen, you can do a presence and command if you want to leverage your advisor and reassuring talents. And I would actually give you a focus in metal sculpting because of reasons that might become apparent.
All right. Just one dice?
If you're assisting, yes. If you want to take the lead, you can also take the lead. Again, the difficulty on this is a 3.
Uh,
My
Yeah.
insight and engineering is 10 and 5.
It sounds like you got the higher one by 1. So I'll do the assist.
Alrighty.
Plus, it helps with one of my talents.
Alrighty. Let's see. I'll still spend a momentum just to be safe.
Okay, rolling 3 dice then.
Oh,
And
complication.
Nope.
This is actually good though, because that's 5 successes, which means you get 2 momentum back, bringing you to 3. But Cullen, don't you have reassuring?
I also have advisor.
So before even needing to spend momentum, go ahead and re-roll that 20 for advisor.
Alrighty.
Now, of course, if you get the 1 in 400 odds of another 20, then we can talk about reassuring, but Okay, no, you actually
Oh,
turn that into another 2 successes for a grand total of 7 successes, which by my count brings you to 5 momentum. So, what that means is between the two of you working together, Krell doing the scanning, Cullen kind of looking over the shoulder, you are going to learn some things, but let's actually put this into mechanics terms before I get too far. So, Krell, since you took the lead, it is 2 plus your engineering for a total of, I believe, 7 challenge dice.
alrighty. Whoops. Oh no, my numkey's off. There we go.
Now, I forget, do you have Miracle Worker? You do have Miracle Worker.
I do.
All right, so by my count, you're actually going to complete this extended task. And again, this is why Miracle Worker is so amazing. So here's what everybody learns more or less at the same time. This is the predecessor is a spaceship. A very old, very ancient spaceship, but a spaceship, a living spaceship. And if you understand the structural analysis, apparently one of what would be a contemporary fusion reactor is malfunctioning.
Well, that's not good.
With my limited engineering knowledge, I concur.
Fusion reactors operate much better when they're not ancient, I guess. Is there So I take it my understanding is that the predecessor is like sort of in pain, if that was correct?
Correct.
Okay. Um well then Krell will comment and like to the captain, it's like, well, pretty sure we found what's aching it. Well, the question is, are we going to be able to fix it?
If it continues to degrade, how long would you estimate to give the creature or structure?
I believe
Am
both
I
are applicable, sir.
am I able to discern that at all, Al?
Yeah, I would say you'd probably be able to tell maybe about 5-10 years before complete systems failure.
And then would I also be able to tell when they're gonna start, for lack of a better term, seeing like a degradation in systems before complete failure?
Probably about 2 to 3 years.
All right, I'll relay that to the captain and I guess also the ambassador.
All right. Ambassador Cavis relays this to Ambassador Udor, and Udor kind of looks a little concerned. He goes, I was not aware the predecessor was in such pain, and that it actually seems to be a living starship, you say. Interesting. Are you able to fix it, perhaps?
Oh, I'm not going to be able to answer that until I get a closer look, ambassador. But hopefully.
We will do what we can, but it is a fusion of organic and inorganic material. It's maybe something out of our ability, but we'll do what we can.
Well, please don't let me get in your way. You have full access to the predecessor. We trust you. And this is where I get to do the gotcha of the episode. You know how the trope is, you always gotta shrink down and go into the body and you have to fly around. Yeah, you're doing that here, just on a regular scale. So, fun times. Minetti, would you like to play the Don't Get Crushed by Valves game?
I'd love to play that game.
All right. Well, I have good news for you. This is going to be a daring and a con. The difficulty, at least on the initial valves you have to get past, is only a 2. The shuttle will assist you with an engines con.
Okay. And then I would like to spend a momentum. Get myself an extra die. I don't have any focuses that would apply here. All right.
All right.
Three
Well, that's already
successes.
3. So you get the momentum back, and then if somebody wants to roll Engines Con on the Aquashuttle.
Then here is the challenge die for untapped potential.
All right, brings you up to 6 momentum.
Challenge. Was it Command Con or
Engines and Con for the
Engines?
shuttle. Yeah. And remember, it always has a focus. Okay, so that actually means you have 1 floating momentum. So keep that in mind. But yeah, so what happens is, Minetti, you kind of go into one of those stained glass windows openings. It does open up. You're able to get inside. And you begin following a map that Krell has mapped out towards this malfunctioning fusion reactor. And along the way, you have to do that dance of go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. Oh, no, okay, now go, kind of a thing. And you do that like 3, 4, maybe about 10 times before you're really into the depth of the creature. At this point, you are in very tight quarters. I don't want to trigger anyone's claustrophobia, but space is becoming a premium, is what I'm getting at here. So you have to be even more precise in your movements.
All right.
I want to make an advantage for.
Okay, what would you like the
Minetti.
advantage to be?
Let's see here. Basically, Colin's just gonna watch Minetti for a moment and see how everything's, playing out. He's gonna go over to one of the side consoles and he's gonna turn off their inertial dampeners. And he's just gonna look at Minetti. He's like, "I need you to focus on the feeling of the ship, how the current's going, when it starts to get faster, and when it starts to slow down. I need you to focus on that, so you can be in tune with it." And I want to make the advantage that with this, he's able to have better timing on when to maneuver around.
Okay. I'll give you the choice. Do you want a decreased complication range, or do you want a decrease in difficulty?
I'll say difficulty.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll bring you down to 5 momentum.
Excellent, because that now triggers teacher.
Mm-hmm. Because they
fancy stuff.
Yeah, let's put it in chat. So the good news is, Minetti, as you continue your piloting, you do get to reroll a d20 if need be. All right. So, Minetti, again, tight quarters. It's getting cramped. You're having to feel the flow, as Cullen just put it. This was going to be a difficulty 4. It's now a difficulty of 3, but the complication range will be a 17 to 20 on this. That's why I asked if you want a difficulty or complication range. So again, difficulty of 3, complication range 17 to 20. You still are doing daring and con, and the shuttle is assisting again with engines con.
So for the complication range, do I just put 3?
I believe it's 4. Yeah, you would put 4.
4. Okay, 4. All right. And how many momentum would I have to spend to get 4 dice?
To get 4 dice, you would have to spend 3 momentum, bringing you to 2.
It's a little pricey. I don't know. Are you guys okay with me spending that much?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I really don't want us to get crushed. That's the main thing.
Yes, I'm glad you recognize the gravity of the situation.
So
Don't let the pressure get to you.
after your advice, Medi will respond to you. I mean, it was against regulations, but I always flew with safeties off during the sims at Academy. And then try and get his successes. There was a complication.
You can reroll 1d20, so go ahead and reroll that 18.
What is the best way to just roll like a single d20?
I would just
challenge
perform
die,
task again
or
and
no?
set it to
Perform
1.
task, just 1. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so
There you
that's
go.
4 successes, bringing you to 3 momentum, and then the shuttle's engines con.
And then here is untapped potential, nothing.
Nothing for untapped potential. All right, if someone can get the Aqua Shuttle once more. Anybody?
Let's see here. Aquashuttle. Whoop. That's the Aristotle. Aquashuttle, there you go. What am I rolling in for it?
Engines con.
Engines con. From task. Assist. Always has focus.
All right, that actually brings you
Nice.
up to another momentum, bringing you to 4. So yeah, Minetti, it's one of those things where, thanks to the captain's foresight, you are feeling the force, quite literally, as you start to get into these areas where the water, the ocean flowing through the predecessor, some of it's more rapid, some of it's more slow, and with the initial dampeners off, you can feel that flow much easier and get into tighter spaces. Now, of course, Ambassador Cavus looks like he's going to throw up at any moment, but that's his problem, not your problem. But the good news
I
is
would lean
eventually...
back and I would say, sorry about that.
No, you
Go
keep
ahead.
going.
Oh, I would lean back and say, would someone please find the ambassador a jump seat?
But as you say that, eventually what happens is it's like stepping through like a bulkhead door. You eventually arrive in what is this... It's a space that is about 3 times the size of the Aqua Shuttle. In fact, the aperture to get in here is just big enough to accommodate the Aqua Shuttle. But immediately on the other side, in this sort of amphitheater-like space, is what appears to be a bioorganic or biotechnical fusion reactor. And it doesn't look good on sensors. In fact, it looks like it needs some maintenance. A lot of maintenance.
Thestral.
Yes, sir.
I know we joked about it earlier, but you getting anything from the creature?
Well, I haven't opened myself up, sir, but beyond the emotions of our immediate group here, but I can open up further. What am I getting? I will open up further.
Power is
I'm gonna
so
spend
cool.
some threat. Because it's funny. Because that's the trope in this game. Is every time Thestral opens his mind, I gotta spend threat. I just gotta do it. So good news, Thestral. You can tell that the creature is not in any more pain. But it is... You know what, Chizno? Why don't you give him the brief version of events of what he might be feeling from the creature? Because I think you describe it much better than I do.
Oh, in terms of the pain?
Yes.
How much of a sensation would Thestral get from a creature like that? Like when you open your mind to someone, like would you just feel the pain they're in, how it displays in their head, or would you actually like feel the pain where they would feel it?
I would say a little bit of both.
Okay. Then for emotional wise, it would feel like struggle. Like why is this constantly being a thing? It's become, the pain itself has probably been going on for long enough that it feels like it is a part of its own identity now. But it still wonders why it has to go through this. And the pain itself, it would be akin to a mix of a dull throbbing with intermittent spiking pain. And even as it tries to process other thoughts, the thoughts are interrupted from that spiking pain, and it longs for the dull pain to return, even if it's a brief moment of just a surge of pain. It would rather have the dull pain than the sudden pain. which probably makes you feel a little sad because that's its existence now.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Shizno.
Thank you, Shizno. Thestral sits there and he's tuning in to the experience, the emotional experience of the creature, and he looks heavier. He looks like he's carrying a burden. He's having a memory. He's having a memory of being a kid and working with his family on the Anansi, which was their ship, an old Hiawatha class, working on a particular planet that had just been ravaged during the Klingon War, and working with survivors and accidentally opening himself up, not really knowing that he should be a little more careful. He was young enough to not know that, and experiencing the chronic pain that their injuries were causing them, that wasn't able to be healed um, because of the battle conditions, even months, years later sometimes. And he just looks really sad. He looks burdened. Uh, I'm getting I'm getting a little bit of learned helplessness, Captain. I'm getting a resignation. I'm getting survivors, the kind of emotions you feel when you're a survivor of something, but nothing else. These are the strongest feelings I'm getting. I'd like to
All right.
continue working on the language. I'd like us to be able to physically communicate with it on its own level, that we're here to help.
We'll continue with
how
that.
how
It
far
would
are
be
we?
good.
How far am I into that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Colin.
I know.
So I would say that at this point you are maybe a day's work off. You could, of course, spend momentum to speed that process up, but even if you spent all 4 momentum, you would still be probably about 5-6 hours off for a full translation matrix.
Mhm. Captain, I can try to communicate telepathically with the creature. Let it know. Try to communicate that our experience is benign. Our intentions are benign. Convey the desire to help with your permission. I can't guarantee it'll work, but I can try. Otherwise, this is going to take me at least a day.
All right. Do what you need to do. And if we do get a program up and running, it'll be good for the Brian to have a way to communicate with their progenitor.
Oh, very good, sir.
Krell, Manetti, I want you, well, Manetti, if you have any ideas as well, to both come up with ideas on how to help repair or at least ease its pain right now before we attempt any repairs. And I want something in depth. We're not going to just rush this.
Yes, sir.
Did you seriously just make a depth pun?
Unintentionally, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. All right, well, we've got things going on all over the place. Who wants to go first? Thestral, Manetti, Krell?
I'll let one of the other two go first.
You're welcome to go up first if you want, Thestral. If not, I can go. I'm
Okay,
fine
I'll
either way.
go. Yeah, because
All
if this
right.
goes pear-shaped,
Thestral, if you could give me a presence and a command on your part, I'll give you social work as a focus. I am going to tell you,
awesome.
though, that the difficulty is going to be a 3.
Okay. All All right. And you said I blanked out completely. Sorry. Could you give me those attribute and discipline?
Presence and command. Obviously, your
Presence.
your power suit, but
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to invoke a well, we'll see. Actually, let's see how this goes. I might be invoking a spending a point of determination here.
actually, hold up. Correction on my point, because I'm looking at your telepathic projection. It looks like, if I read this correctly, it's actually a presence security, but the difficulty would be 2 instead.
Presence security. Okay. But that's only if I want to harm it.
Well, I'm one of those GMs that when I read you can do harm, you can do good too.
Okay.
Which actually now makes me wonder, should that be presence medicine instead? Yeah, make it presence medicine. I think medicine makes more sense here than security.
I agree. And not just for selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, difficulty
Okay.
of 3. Oh,
Difficulty
complication
of 3.
range. Complication range 18 to 20.
18 to 20. Okay. So was that a 3 or
Yep,
a 2?
difficulty of 3.
Difficulty of 3. Okay. And I would very much like to spend 3 momentum on this to get 2 additional die, which will bring us down to 1, if everyone's okay with that.
I'm completely fine with it. I've been the main one spending it, so if anyone else wants to spend it, that's fine by me.
All right. Here it goes. No.
Interesting. So that does give you 4 successes, which would bring you to 2 momentum. So you do have an option here to spend that 2 momentum to ignore that complication.
I do.
Okay. Bringing you down to 0.
Yeah, fair spend.
All right. So Thestral,
This is too important.
you open up your mind. You try to communicate soothing thoughts. Hey, we're here to help, etc., etc. And the creature, it doesn't respond like you would expect a person to. It's the equivalent of talking to a mountain, and you're just getting these very large, very ancient vibes from the creature where it's like, thank you for helping. Please don't cause any more damage. Do what you can, kind of a thing.
Oh, it's beautiful. We'll do everything we can to help you, you beautiful creature, you.
Which now turns to Kreller Minetti. Or both, really, because you're kind of doing the same thing.
I want to do a little rally.
Oh yeah,
Before we get to them.
As the captain, that is your prerogative. Go ahead and do a presence command. I am going to make you do a speech though. So
Oh, he hates those.
yeah, he hates those.
I don't like talking.
Mm.
He's just gonna look at everyone and he was like, I know what we're gonna do is gonna be a pretty hard ask, but Krell, I just watched you the other day make 2 inventions. That's amazing. You have the mind to do this. Minetti, you have the determination, the dedication, and the, what's the word, vim to see through challenges, regardless of how you may feel about them. If you feel that they may be too big, doesn't matter to you, you'll push on through. And Thestral, you just can't help but be inquisitive, imaginative, and I think that's a great thing. All of you have unique traits, talents, and abilities. As an individual, you're amazing. You're fantastic and wonderful. But together, as a group, you're unbeatable, unshakable, and you're never going to get anything that will keep you down. So we got this. Not because we're part of Starfleet, not because we're the crew of the Aristotle, but because we're dedicated and compassionate people.
I'll just give you 2 momentum. Don't even roll. Just have 2 momentum.
Okay.
Just there you go. Just have your momentum.
Sweet.
Well said.
Hope the tracker's not updating.
There it goes.
There we go.
All right. Well, you now have 2 momentum to play with Krell and Thestral. Or not Thestral, Krell and Minetti.
Alrighty.
And I'm immediately going to take a snapshot of them, but all 3 of them.
Oh, there you go. All right.
All right. To start off, I'm going to take some more detailed scans of what do we want to call it? Like a reactor? Does it seem kind of? Is it like a?
Do you want me to make the joke that it's the powerhouse of the cell?
I was just thinking that.
Is it kind of like? What's its biological equivalent? So I can kind of get my head on straight.
I'll just tell you that it's the
mitochondria.
I've been waiting to drop that joke the entire session. Just
Admire you.
All right, and let's see. Yeah, I'd like to try and just get some more information on specifically what's wrong with it before basically I'm trying to diagnose it more before I try and make any suggestions on how to fix it. Because I'm still not quite sure, both out of character and in character, what exactly is going wrong with this.
Fair enough. I've left it vague on purpose. Go ahead and give me a reason engineering. You may have
Alrighty.
power systems as a focus. The difficulty will be a 2.
Alrighty.
And if someone can grab the Aquashuttle's sensors and engineering for me.
Yeah, I can grab it.
Perfect.
Sensors, engineering,
Alrighty.
and 1 die, always focused. Boom.
Okay. Well, you got your 2 you needed. So, Krell, to not go into, like, PhD level mechanics or anything, to keep things very simple, imagine kind of a water wheel, where a water wheel works because water pours onto parts of, I forget what they're called, but it pours onto the wheel, it pushes the platform down, turns the wheel. Something very similar to that is happening here with the quote-unquote mitochondria, the fusion reactor, whatever we're going to call it, where it's supposed to be turning to generate that mechanical energy, but something is impeding the flow.
Okay. Can I tell if it's an external, like a foreign piece, like a foreign body that's preventing this mechanism, or if it's perhaps like a degradation of the organism itself?
If you give me 1 momentum, I will answer that question.
Sure.
All right. The answer is, it is a foreign material. And this is where it gets interesting. That foreign material is a piece of a hull of a Klingon bird of prey.
Whoa.
Interesting. I'd like to run some scans on the bird of prey itself, see if we can determine roughly what class, what I'm trying to determine is how old the thing is.
Well, if you give me a momentum, I can answer that question, or you can roll for it.
I'll roll.
Okay. Same roll as before, a reason in engineering, assisted by sensors engineering from the shuttle.
Alrighty.
Difficulty of 2.
Okay. Well, let's see if that shuttle goes. What was the roll for the shuttle?
Sensors
You got him in,
engineering.
Eddie? Go.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Well,
Oh no.
Unfortunately, you just don't know. And in fact, the complication is going to be that when you scan the fragment, because the fragment is more or less the size of the shuttle itself, so it's not the full bird of prey, but it's like a chunk of the bird of
Yeah,
prey.
like part of the wing or something.
Exactly. When you scan it, what you realize is that if you want to get rid of this, you are going to have to either do like go out into the creature and cut it and spend like days down here shuttling pieces out. Or Minetti, I'm just going to point out that the Aquashuttle does have phaser banks.
That is a good point. Manetti would look to Thestral and say, "Are you able to communicate to it that it will require surgery? I don't want to do this without its consent."
That might be complicated, but I can try. I'll try to
Just
keep the
try
message
and communicate that there's something blocking whatever this is. That it's the heart, and we will need to take measures to get it out.
Thestral, if you want to
Okay.
give me momentum and a threat, we can make that advantage.
Momentum and a threat.
Yeah, since you
And
only
make
have the
that
one
advantage.
momentum, you'd have to give me a threat.
What if I spent a value?
Determination.
Determination?
Yeah, determination would count here. You wouldn't have to spend any momentum. It would just be a free advantage.
Okay. It's important enough. I think it's important enough for me to do that. I'm going to go either with the Enar Way or Crew Confidant.
I'll give you either.
Okay, great. Then I will spend that to get the advantage.
Okay. So you reach out with your mind, you communicate to the predecessor that there needs to be surgical work done. Again, it's like talking to a mountain where you don't get concrete words or really overwhelming emotions. It's just kind of how do I put this in a nice way? It consents, but it also is like curious in a way because it's never really had something like this done before. So it's morbidly curious, I think is how I would put it.
Okay, but I will make sure that I have conveyed the risk that there may be risk involved.
I think it is
That it
going to remain morbidly curious.
Okay. Mr. Minet, I'm getting, and Captain, Ambassador, I am getting an overwhelming sense of a fatalistic curiosity about this procedure, but it is giving consent.
What do you think, Captain? Pretty sure I can operate the phaser banks well enough.
How deeply embedded is this piece of metal in it?
That is a good question. Like, how lodged in there is it?
Enough that you'd either have to ram it a lot with the Aquashuttle or you're going to have to cut it out, kind of a thing.
Precision laser work is probably the better of the two options.
Has
Or phaser in this case.
has tissue grown over it? Like has like a bioorganic matter grown over it? Like it's like kind of trapped within?
That's a good way
The
of thinking
power?
about it. Yeah, you're on the right track.
Okay, so yeah. Well,
Can we beam it out?
Do it. Well, you did bring pattern enhancers. You would have to go out there and set up the pattern enhancers, but that is something you could do.
the only concern would that be is if is there any sign of infection? Because it's a foreign object. It's reasonable to assume that its body might have been trying to fight it off.
To sort of help with the mental image, let's say that this room is bioluminescent, because that's the word of today, bioluminescent. But it's in a blue kind of hue, a light blue, and the tissue around the metallic piece is kind of a purple.
So it does look infected?
A little bit, yeah.
Well,
It is my professional opinion, at least, that the way to accomplish this with minimum damage to the organism is to go out and manually cut through just enough of the tissue with a hand phaser to place the pattern enhancers on a piece of the bird of prey and beam it out.
well, that's the thing, though. If the matter around the metal itself has been infected with bacteria, because again, it's probably been trying to decay this piece of metal for some time, it's giving it a home to grow then. So we would have to find a way to clean that site as well. We could
Theoretically, enough precision work with a wide beam on the ship's phaser bank could clean out a wound like that, but it wouldn't be the most pleasant thing for the organism.
Let's see if we can figure out how to do local anesthesia. Localize any discomfort and numb it,
Can we get it
essentially.
connected with Dean back up on the Aristotle?
You could do that, yeah.
Well, one thing I would point out, because you guys are, I think I understand what you are trying to do. I will point out that technically we do see that even shuttle and ship phasers have a stun setting.
But does it have a Novocaine setting?
I mean, that's what stun is.
Stun is, I'm going to put you to sleep now.
I think we see a few times in the show where stun means whatever it means without killing.
Basically, yeah. I would still like to consult if we could with the doctor just to see if this is a safe route to go. Being that he's probably a bit more schooled in xenobiology than most of us are.
That's fair enough.
I mean, basically just seeing if he's going to throw any red flags at me, and if not, we'll go ahead.
So
I'll get him
it
up.
is easy enough to get back up and talk to Dr. Dean. And Dr. Dean is like, I'm sorry, you're attempting to do what to what? And when you explain the situation, there's just a moment of silence. And then Dr. Dean just kind of, you hear him scratching his head. And he's like, best I can tell you is that unless we want to try and get a entire crew down there, you're going to have to do some precision stunning, then some precision cutting, and then you're going to have to hope the creature, its natural immune system will sort of kick in and solve the rest. But yeah, that's are you going for a metal Minetti? Because I'm pretty sure like I could write a paper on this.
We're just out here trying to do our jobs, Doctor.
Well, make sure you keep the mission log and document everything, because this could make for a fascinating case study.
You got it. Doc says that with enough precision work, we should be good to go. It's after the excision, it'll be up to the organism's defense systems and immune system to handle whatever infection may be left behind.
Well, let's send information to the brine, and wrong sector of space. The brine. Let's see if they know of any boosters they can give the creature to help with its recovery. We don't want to just assume it'll all be good. Let's give it every fighting chance it can get.
Good news on that front. When you do reach out to Ambassador Udor and the others, they do communicate that they have some form of a gel that they can apply to the affected areas. They haven't come down with you because, there just wasn't enough space. But if you give them the map, they can come down here on their own time and apply that gel.
Yeah, I think it would be a solid idea to just be sharing all the info that we're gathering as much as we can, at least with the Brian, just to make sure that they're as on top of it as we are.
And they're utterly fascinated.
This is partially their home.
Exactly. Like they're drinking in all of this where they're like, we didn't know, if we knew sooner, we could have done something, please do whatever you can to help, that sort of thing. But it's one of those things where at this point, Minetti, you have to make some very, very important rolls here. No pressure, right?
Yeah, no pressure at all. Just doing some laser surgery on an organ of a living spaceship.
Yeah, no pressure at all. All right, well, I'll tell you the good news. The good news is that since the inertial dampeners are off, you're going to be able to feel the creature's reaction to tell if you're doing it right or you're doing a little off mark, as I'll put it. So what that means, it was a difficulty of 3. It is now a difficulty of 2 to apply the anesthesic, aka stun setting. So that's going to be a control and a security. You have shipboard tactical systems as a focus. The difficulty is 2. The shuttle will assist you with a weapons and security.
All right, and I will spend momentum
security
because I don't want to mess this up.
Okay,
Ooh,
we need to see a success from the shuttle here. We get a success from the shuttle.
Thank you, shuttle.
And I just want to point out that the shuttle was rolling under a 5, and you got a 4. So well done there on the shuttle.
Yeah, I guess the Aquashuttle ain't built for combat, is it?
No, it's not. So here's what happens. You very carefully align the targeting sensors. You line it up. You double check. You triple check. You quadruple check. Then you push the button. A bluish beam lances out from the Aquashuttle to the points where the flesh has sort of grown over the metallic piece of the bird of prey. And Thestral, there's like a momentary like wince from the creature, but it's not like a yelp. It's kind of like a ooh, ow, tinge of pain. But after a few moments of applying, you release the button, Minetti, and the creature's flesh has been stunned. So now comes the hard part. You have to precision laser it to get it out of there. And for this, I'm going to tell you it's the same roll, but now the difficulty is a 4, and the complication range is an 18 to 20. And to do all that, I actually have to spend all my threat, but there we are.
And we decided to do that instead of setting up the pattern enhancers for a particular reason?
You know what? I might have pushed forward on that. My apologies.
I was under the impression that we were stunning and making the incisions, and then we were going to go up and manually place the pattern enhancers once basically we have access to the bird of prey behind the flesh that's covering it. At least that's the impression I got.
I think we're on the same page. We're just at different stages of it. I think we're on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Complication range 3.
Oh no.
Oh no. Big oh no.
Well, let's see if the shuttle assists you, because then we can talk about potential determination spends.
I actually spent my determination earlier to make sure we didn't get crushed.
Well, the captain has his still, and he can always give it out. That is his prerogative. Okay, here's... Unfortunately, we now have to talk about options here. So, the captain could give you his determination, because that's the captain's prerogative, or you could challenge a value here to get your own point of determination back. As a reminder, if you challenge a value, you got to cross it out and come up with a new one by the time of next session. That would let you reroll your dice. It would not let you reroll the Aquashuttle dice. And since it is a difficulty of 4, you would have to double crit. So it's possible, it's just not probable.
I don't think there's any of his values that he could like reasonably cross out that wouldn't be like against his current character.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of leaves it in a tough position.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cullen, do you want to pass over your determination then?
Sure.
Okay. And I think you have multiple values that apply here, Minetti.
Oh yes, we will. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I will use, in this case, body and mind alike must be healthy. And I'll go ahead and use that. And is that a reroll, or is it just 2 successes from the determination? How does it work?
It's a full reroll of your dice.
Okay. Okay. And complication range 3.
Okay. We're at 2 out of 4 needed. So, I can offer you a success with 2 complications.
What do you guys think?
Oh, technically he's using the advantage I gave him, right?
Yes, so you could reroll. Well, you could reroll one of those die to crit fish. But you'd have to take the new result.
I think the chances are pretty high that I might lose the success instead of getting a crit.
I'd say 50-50. But I'm bad at probabilities.
Yeah, either you do or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It either is or it isn't. Yeah, I don't think I can take the risk because there's a pretty high chance that I'll lose a success and not a very high chance that I'll get a crit.
So it sounds like 2 successes for 2 complications. Is that correct?
Didn't we have a
Seeming
floating
like-
thing at some point?
Yeah, did we spend the floating
Yeah,
momentum
you
yet?
spent that already.
Damn.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for remembering that, though. That's I'm trying to like rack my brain of any other bonuses I might be able to apply to this in any way. Yeah, I think I might just have to take the 2 complications.
All right. So you do it.
Oof.
You do make it easier for you to go out and place the pattern enhancers to beam away the affected structure. You don't evaporate the bird of prey metal. Okay, you just got a momentum from chat, so that might come into play.
Thank you, chat.
So
Feeling merciful over here.
yeah. So the good news, you do manage to break up the piece of the bird of prey. Here's where the complications come into play. Complication 1 is that unfortunately, as much as the Aquashuttle's phasers are meant to be fired underwater, there's just so many variables involved between the creature and your training that the metallic fragments of gray matter. I'll take 2 threat. Thank you, gray matter.
Oh no.
The bird of prey fragment doesn't stay in nice big chunks, or it doesn't stay in a local area. It fragments. So now it's filling the amphitheater that you're in that contains this mitochondria / fusion reactor. So this is now a much bigger job that you're going to have to do. It's still possible to beam it away, but you're going to be here a while if you want to make sure you get every fragment.
Does the Aquashuttle have a... Sorry, I didn't realize there's 2. Continue.
No, go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Does it have a tractor beam?
It does not, unfortunately, and I double-checked that.
Poop.
Yeah, I double-checked that because I'm like, if they had a tractor beam, this would be great. Unfortunately, there is no tractor beam. But complication 2 is that all of your phasering is actually going to make it so you only have 1 power remaining on the Aquashuttle. Now, I should take a moment and say that the Aquashuttle has 3 power, but it also has a special feature that if at any point it runs out of power, it kind of does an emergency ballast blow and it tries to get to the surface. So you can still get to the surface. The problem is you're in the middle of a creature at the moment.
Will I'm giving it all she's got talent
Let me take a
come into
look.
play here. So you can keep a ship running on a fraction of its normal power levels.
Let's put it in chat so we can all read it. Whenever someone attempts a power requirement, roll a challenge dice. Yes, in fact, that's very important. If you could roll me 2 challenge dice, please.
Okie dokie.
Okay, you need an effect. Okay, so good news. You're at 2 power. So you're not in imminent danger of losing power. So you just lose a little bit of power. Well done. That actually nullifies one of the complications. So there you go.
Ooh.
But yeah, like I said, at this point, the bird of prey fragments are just sort of all over the place. The mitochondria/fusion reactor is flowing again. It is providing power, and the creature's pain is lessened. But again, they're just kind of these metallic duranium fragments just kind of floating around in this amphitheater.
Captain, I might have a scientific solution for the floating debris. Mr. Krell, do you think we can polarize the hull so that we
Actually, a
can
great
attract the
idea.
fragments on the hull?
Probably. But I'd be concerned about the damage that the fragments would do to the shuttle.
At this point, I'd like to point out that the ambassador has fainted in his chair. He's decided to check out.
Thestral looks at, or Thestral points his head in Captain Collins' direction, which with an expression that can best be explained, for lack of a better term or euphemism, as puppy eyes.
Just look at the ambassador, take a photo.
Jeez. The candid photo of him just passed out on the floor.
So, what was your idea, Thestral? What did you want to try?
I believe we could possibly magnetize the hull to attract the duranium fragments, sir, so that we can pull them away.
Yeah, the old pre-Federation ships used to operate off that before they developed shielding. They magnetized the hull.
Yeah, I seem to remember reading something about that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Krell,
Yes, sir.
how do you feel about crossing some wires and wrecking the shield generator?
Not all that enthusiastic, but it is I can do it.
Well, the other thing we could do too is rip up some of the floor plating here and grab the grav plating and turn it into a giant magnet. Take it out and then have to be hands-on with it though.
That's a novel solution, sir. It would pose less risk to the Aquashuttle.
It'd still have to be tethered to a power source, so we would have to run a cabling out to it.
I
Does
could
the shuttle
potentially
have-
rig up an onboard power supply for it. I
was
could
also
cannibalize
thinking-
some stuff in here.
We don't have a tractor beam. Do we got a grappler?
Nope.
Grapplers are cool.
Well, we got a couple ideas.
Those are the only solutions that I can think of that might be applicable from our current position. Everything else that I can think of requires getting a hold of Ensign Follis and getting him to put something together on the ship and send it down.
Well, the Aquashuttle has a deflector dish, right? You know, we can also use it in space for travel. We could emit a beam from it. Polarizing beam. You know, attempt to draw the material towards the shuttle.
Wonder if it would be a safer option to. I'm still thinking that may be one of our better options, but perhaps polarize the pieces to one another and then collect the clump.
Hmm.
That way there's less risk to the ship from a number of impacts than just one large impact that we may need to worry about.
Well, if it factors into your consideration all, what I can tell you is that Thestral, the creature's pain is lessening as you keep deliberating what to do. It does appear that your work has lessened the creature's burden, so it doesn't seem to be affected by the metallic fragments at the moment.
The creature seems to be feeling the beginnings of a sense of relief and a lessening of pain.
It's good
Great
to
news.
know.
Captain, whatever the case, whatever solution you decide on, I volunteer. I'm probably the best swimmer of all of us. I volunteer to do any of the work outside of the ship. I'm a pretty good engineer. I'm not as good as the amazing Commander Krell here, but I can hold my own.
And a much better swimmer than anyone on my security staff, myself included.
And don't you forget it.
Well, what seems to be the best option of all the ideas tossed out there? We either use a polarizing beam from the deflector dish, we magnetize the hull, or we rip up the inside to repurpose a grav plating.
Well, if it
Between the
affects your
things.
judgment, I'm going to spend that 2 threat that Gray Matter gave me to create the complication that you get a hail from Commander River.
Call on here.
Sir, we have a Klingon bird of prey decloaking off the port bow.
Oh no.
And that's where we're going to end the session because I'm an asshole.
Oh no.
So yeah.
Hooray. My value's gonna kick in. The only good Klingon is a dead Klingon.
Like 3/4 of the crew just started getting PTSD flashbacks.
Oh. So yeah, I did want to say thank you all for sticking with me. We tried a few new things. For example, we didn't take a break because I kind of felt that the break broke up the action too much. So we're trying something new. Do you guys prefer us to just go for the 2 hours, or did you want to do the break in future?
No, I think. Well, what was that? Yeah, I think it's fine. There's enough downtime between people talking that if you want to, go relieve yourself or get some water or something like that, you can.
Yeah, that's the good part, that a lot of our scenes tend to be buddy cop scenes between two characters, or
Yeah.
sometimes more than two, but usually two. And so it gives other people a decent chance to grab a water or whatever they might need to do.
Yeah, I'd say
it's
play by
okay.
ear. Like, if we have like everyone talking in a group session for a while, like we're all together, then yeah, I'd say do a break. But I'd say just see how everyone's feeling or how it's been going.
Yeah,
Cool.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Going through every session might not make sense. But if there's like intense action like today, or there was just a lot of stuff going on at once, then I think the occasional not taking a break makes sense.
Okay, I just wanted to check. And the other thing is I do want to say thank you to Shizno. I know I picked on you, so I do appreciate you bearing with me.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't think you were picking on me at all.
All right, that's good. I always worry when I call upon real life stuff like that. So I do want to again say thank you for putting up with me. But yeah, YouTube, this is where we're going to say goodbye. But Twitch, stick around because we're going to race it. But YouTube, thank you so much. We'll see you later. Bye, YouTube.